Hi, I'm Mandy McKay. I'm a professional artist and I'm making these videos of creativity tips to help people become more creative versions of themselves so that together we can create a better world. This tip was inspired by Ron of Ron's Big Ideas, and he said that remember that not everybody is going to like your work. I'm going to turn that into a creativity tip for you. So I want to start out by saying that this is a bit different from a couple of videos that I've done in the past where I talk about how to deal with criticism. In this case, we're talking about people, maybe they aren't even saying anything, but they just aren't that enthusiastic about your work. And what you can do about that, and is there a way that you can turn this into something that can enhance your creativity? So I think all of us have had this experience, even if you're just creating as a hobby, where you've made something and maybe it's really meaningful to you, but then other people, they seem to think it's okay, but they just, like I said, they just aren't really that excited about it like you are. That's actually to be expected unless there are different types of art. For this, I'll be talking about visual art mostly right now, but this applies to all different types of art. But like with painting, for example, impressionistic or semi-impressionistic landscape paintings seem to be the most popular and sell the best. So if you're doing something like that, or maybe black and white photography, those are things that that have a lot of mass appeal. So if you happen to be doing something like that, then you may have more people who are excited about what you're working on. But if you're doing something that's a lot more unusual than that, which really tends to be a good thing often in art, to do something that's very unusual, you might not get that same kind of response. There's a musical example from the late 90s. I think it was Dave Soldier, Komar, and Melamit, I think was their names, but they did these surveys of people with both visual art, but then also music, to see like what people liked and what people disliked. And so they came up with, they wrote a song that was based on what the most people said they liked, and it was a very bland song. It was really bland, and I don't remember much about it because I only listened to it once. Once was enough. I do remember it had like kind of smooth, low-key saxophone in it, but apparently if you took everything that everybody said they really liked in a song, you came up with something that personally I thought was very bland and forgettable. They also did the most unwanted song, I think it's called, and I actually happen to love that song. It's a 13-minute, what I consider a masterpiece, and it kind of sounds like if Brian Wilson and Frank Zappa collaborated. But it has all the things that people hate in songs. It's got everything from operatic rapping, it's got bagpipes, it's got children hyping the operatic rapper, but it really is creative and different, and it is not for everybody. It is not for everybody, but my husband and I love this song. But it is literally everything that people said that they cannot stand in songs, and they put it together into a song. So my point that I'm making here is that if you do something that maybe not everybody is going to like, you might come up with something that's way more creative and interesting than just something that everybody's going to like. So keep that in mind. The more unusual whatever you've worked on is, then the more likely that people maybe aren't going to be that enthusiastic about it. So be glad if you're doing something that's maybe meaningful to you, but it's just a little bit weird so that other people maybe don't get it. So that's my first tip about this, is to accept, like kind of adopt a mindset that if not everybody's liking it and it's not for everybody, then maybe that means that it's going to be very much for a smaller group of people who will be a lot more enthusiastic about it, and you just have to find who those are. Depending of course on what your needs are. If you don't really show your art to that many people, then maybe you don't have to worry about this. But if you're planning, if you're hoping to have a lot more people, seeing, listening to your art and liking it, then this is definitely something to think about. Just adopting this mindset that if not everybody is enthusiastic about it, then probably it's got some really niche appeal, and that can be really good. Now, the other thing I want to say about this and how you can make this work for you, this is the reason that artist statements exist. And that's something that I think mostly is done with visual artists. But it can certainly work, you know, you don't have to do a formal statement, but if you're just explaining to people why this art that you did, the song, the short film, whatever it is, if you're explaining to them why it's so meaningful to you, then they're more likely to see it through your eyes and it will become more meaningful to them. So again, this doesn't have to be a formal artist statement or a statement about your particular piece that you're working on, but just if you communicate to people really what it's about and why it matters to you, then it's more likely to matter to them. So again, thank you, Ron of Ron's Big Ideas, for mentioning this, that remember that not everybody is going to like your art, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, and sometimes that can just send you down a really interesting path that maybe is a lot more exciting and interesting to you than if you just went with something that everybody was going to like. Because if everybody likes it, it's probably not that unusual or different, and again, that's not a bad thing, but neither is having something that's really unusual so that only a smaller amount of people actually get it. But I hope you found this tip to be useful. Again, my name is Manda McKay, and thank you so much for watching.